Thinkware Q800Pro versus the IROAD X11. I'm Ben with Safe Drive Solutions, your dashcam specialists. And today we're going to go over the main differences between these two units. And also stay tuned because right at the end, we're also going to show you how the IROAD X11 compares in video quality to the Thinkware Q1000, the brand new 2K unit. And I think you'll be very surprised at how the two match up. Anyways, let's go. Dashcam resolution. The Thinkware Q800 Pro uses a front 2K 1440p 5 megapixel Sony Starvis sensor. In the rear, it also uses a 1080p 2 megapixel Sony Starvis sensor. When we go to the IROAD X11, it is using a front and rear 2K 1440p 5 megapixel Sony Starvis sensor. Viewing angle. The Q800 Pro has a front camera that does 140 degrees and a rear camera with a 140 degree viewing angle. The X11 runs a front camera with 155 degrees and a rear camera with 155 degrees, giving overall an additional 30 degrees of wide viewing angle. High dynamic range. Thinkware does not have high dynamic range, but it does have WDR, which is wide dynamic range. So HDR processes images to ensure clear recordings in bright and dark light. This allows the dashcam to combine multiple images at different levels of brightness to create one superior image. So the X11 currently supports high dynamic range and it uses real HDR. So you're going to notice a difference in the video in some of the recordings, and also later on in the video when you see the comparison to the Thinkware Q1000, which claims to have HDR, you're going to notice a major difference in how the high dynamic range works on the iRoad. Parking mode. The Thinkware Q800 Pro has three options, and that is motion detection, which means it'll automatically record when detecting moving objects or impact while the car is parked, or time lapse. Time lapse means it'll record at 2 frames per second, which basically means it's taking 2 pictures per second instead of the normal 30 pictures per second. Okay? Energy saving mode is impact only, which means 1 second after the vehicle is hit, it will start recording an event recording file. Now, why this is more of a preferred option for a lot of our customers is because it draws 67.7 milliamps a current draw. What that means to you in tech terms is it will last about 3 times longer than the other parking mode options in the Thinkware motion detection or time lapse. IROAD X11. So the IROAD X11 uses 2 different kinds of parking modes. So what it does is it records in time lapse mode at 1 frame per second. So it'll record the entire time while parked, and basically if there's an impact, then it'll take the impact and put it into the event folder. Now, I always recommend everybody to have motion detection turned on. The reason why is because the motion detection and time lapse will work in conjunction with each other. So you have it recording at 1 frame per second, and if somebody walks into the frame, it will actually record at 10 frames per second. Okay, which means it's taking 10 pictures per second. So it's taking more information. When it detects motion, it'll take that and put it into the event recording folder of the dash camera. So if there is any funny business happening, it's a higher chance of getting that because it'll put it into that separate folder, while the time-lapse recordings will stay in your normal recordings and will constantly be written over. Anyways, all of these settings can be changed through the Wi-Fi app, only on both units. Parking mode cable and low battery protection. Both the iRoad and Thinkware need to hook up 3 wires, which is power, ground, and ignition. Okay, and you can select the low battery protection digitally through the Wi-Fi app. I always recommend having it at the lowest setting of 12 volts or higher. Do not go lower than 12 volts because all these newer vehicles have a lot of computers and everything in them that if it sees a really low voltage, they're not going to allow your vehicle to start up. And I always find that if you have it at 12 volts or higher, that tends to be the safest way to set it up. Now, there is also for both these units, you can also purchase an OBD2 cable if you don't feel comfortable hardwiring it yourself or do not have access to a professional installer. And for the do-it-yourselfers, you can use an OBD2 cable. Now, we have the IROAD cable. The IROAD cable will plug in and support both these units. Thinkware also has its own Thinkware cable that will work for their unit as well. Super night vision. So, on the Thinkware Q800Pro, you can actually go into the settings and turn night vision to even be on while driving. So if you are someone who drives in low light conditions quite frequently, you can actually turn on the night vision to be on even while driving. The IROAD X11 only works in parking mode. However, I do find that the high dynamic range and the Sony Starvis lens on the IROAD still makes it work really well in low light conditions. Wi-Fi app. Both units have iOS and Android support. The IROAD app will show GPS info in the app, which is pretty awesome. So it'll actually show where you were driving, how fast you were driving, and give that information while viewing the video. The Thinkware app does not show that information at all within the app. Instead, you need to use their desktop software to get that same experience. Cloud capability. Thinkware has cloud capability, and it will actually allow you to locate vehicle, driving impact notification, geofencing, and remote live view. Now keep in mind, this does require you to have a hotspot installed in your vehicle or utilize your phone as a hotspot to the unit while driving, which will actually incur data usage costs. Now, the iRoad has no support at all for cloud support features. Now, I know a lot of people will say to me they want a dash camera with cloud. We've installed probably over 1,000 dash cameras in the last 2.5 years, and I've only ever had one customer that ever actually went and actively used cloud. So keep that in mind when you are looking for a dash camera with cloud capabilities. Now, maybe you are someone who wants to use it. If you are, then I would probably recommend not looking at the iRoad system. If you are, I'd probably look more towards Thinkware, Blackview, a lot of the other brands that actually do have cloud capability. SD card capacity. The Thinkware dashcam will support up to 128 gigabyte micro SD card, while the iRoad supports up to a 512 gigabyte micro SD card. Now let's take into account that let's say we had a 64 gigabyte micro SD card installed in both units. Now, the approximate record time on the iRoad would be about 6 hours of continuous record time, while the Thinkware would get approximately 3 hours. And the main reason why this is because the iRoad system is using a newer video codec. It's called H.265, which gives you approximately twice the recording capacity, while the Thinkware is still using MP4. GPS information. The Thinkware has a built-in GPS antenna. It'll give you speed and location data of where the video was recorded. The other feature that it has is every 3 months you can update it and have all new updated red light and speed camera notifications. So it'll actually prompt you saying red light camera in 500 meters, speed limit 50 kilometers an hour, and it will actually let you know. It is not monitoring whether you're going fast or not. It's just pre-recorded messages of where those red light and speed cameras are on the intersection corners. The iRoad will do speed and location data as well, but it has a small external GPS antenna. You can also select to turn off GPS speed for all the people with heavy feet on the Thinkware and IROAD dash cameras. Video length recording. Both the Thinkware and IROAD have the options of 1 minute video record time, which means it's typically going to be separated into separate 1 minute videos. However, when you have an incident, they will have smaller video files that will go into separate folders and saved away. And depending on the settings and how often you drive, it will sooner or later get recorded over top of. File list organization. The Thinkware has multiple file folders. It has continuous record time, continuous incident, motion detection, parking incident, and manual recording. The continuous is where all of your continuous recordings will go while you're driving. If you have an impact while driving, which could be speed bumps, potholes, aggressive braking, or a car accident, typically they're going to go into continuous incident file folder. Motion detection. If you have that turned on while parked, that is where those video files will go. If you get hit while parked, keep in mind that your low battery protection has not kicked in. It will go into the parking incident file folder. And last but not least, if you hit this little button right here, it'll do manual recording. So that what happens in manual recording is it'll go back 10 seconds and record a separate 1 minute video file. IROAD has normal, impact, and manual. So normal is just going to be your continuous recordings that are always going on. The impact folder is going to be where events are. So typically what's going to happen in here is any of your motion detections while parked, any impacts while you're driving, they're all going into there. The manual recording, which is where if you hit this button right here, right, what'll end up happening is it'll start and do a 1 minute file recording. Now the difference between the two is the Thinkware will go back 10 seconds and save a separate video file, while the IROAD X11 will start recording from when you push the button. It just depends on what you're looking to capture. Voice recording. Both units have the capability and you can turn it on or off. But what is really cool and unique about the X11 is you can choose to leave it on, which I always recommend everybody to do that. Because if you need to download a video, you can choose to download it with or without audio. While with the Thinkware, you can't do this. This is great because sometimes we say things in the heat of the moment that we might regret, or maybe we're driving along and we're worried about it recording us. And with the Thinkware, let's say someone comes up and starts yelling at us and we have audio turned off. Now we haven't captured any of the data. While IROAD will have that turned on, and if you choose to download with or with audio, you now have that option. Size of the dash cameras. So if we see here, both dash cameras, they're both about the same thickness, very close to the same height, right? And the main difference is, as you can see, the Thinkware, they just don't have anything right here. That's the only difference. Other than that, they're pretty much the same size. This right here is the video footage of the Thinkware Q800Pro against the IROAD X11. This footage was shot probably about 6 months ago now, and I actually made videos back then there. However, I didn't really have a lot of subscribers, so I thought I would take it and reuse this video because a lot of people keep asking me, well, how does the Q800Pro compare to the IROAD X11? And as you'll be able to see from the video, they both do really well, and some of them, they do have some negatives and they do some positives. So they're both good units. However, feel free to take a look at the video. And then after this, we're going to follow directly with the Thinkware Q1000 video against the IROAD X11. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave comments down below. We'll do our best to try and get to them as soon as possible. And also, let us know if there's other videos you want to see us make. Please let us know. I know I have 2 new 4K cameras coming to me right now, and I will be putting them against the Viofo 8129 4K and the Thinkware U1000. So there's going to be a whole bunch of new videos coming out very soon. Anyways, thanks a lot.